Hello, happy Friday. Trying to be sure that I am live in the group so I could see all the comments. Okay, great. I'm showing that I'm live. Hello, happy Friday. Today I wanted to talk about the real reason your marketing is stressing you out and what to do instead to make posting on social media actually enjoyable. So when you are here today, pop into the comments and say hello, and I am going to get started. So I'll start off by saying when I was new to posting on social media, and even years later, social media really stressed me out and it was burning me out, and I never really knew why. I assumed that it was just me. I was doing it wrong because everybody else seemed to have this really healthy relationship with social media, and I felt like I was drowning. And so if you can relate to any of that, like feel free, pop into the comments and let me know if that's resonating with you, because I really felt like it was just me. Like I was burning myself out from social media and I really didn't know what I was doing wrong. So at the end of the day, what I ended up realizing was that I was confusing oh, my volume's up. I was confusing constantly with consistently. And of course, I say all the time, like, show up consistently, be consistent. Anything in your business that you do consistently that moves the ball forward will eventually result in the ball moving forward and your business growing. So being consistent is key, but I was completely confusing my social media posting with constantly. And so when it comes to social media, I really do believe that that is one of the main things that is stressing people out, what is making them feel burned out. And at the end of the day, being consistent, it doesn't mean every day. Consistency means reliable. So really the lie that I accepted early in my business was that I had to show up constantly, and I got the two mixed up over time. So it really led me to a lot of burnout. And it's not that I don't burn myself out now, because I love my business and I feel like I'm constantly working on my business. The social media posting really burned me out because I was thinking to myself, okay, if I don't show up for a day, if I don't show up for a few days, like if I'm not posting, if I'm not in my stories every day or every few days or even for a weekend, that my audience is going to leave, that my audience is not going to trust me. And here we try to build that know, like, and trust factor. We want to grow our audience and have them feel like they know us. And I feel like when I was a new business owner, and honestly, for a few years after that, because I feel like it did take me a while to build this healthy relationship with social media and my content and my posting. But realizing that as new business owners, we tell ourselves that maybe because we're still establishing that trust with our audience, if we don't show up constantly, then they're not going to trust us. So I used to think that I had to show up constantly. And then that meant that I needed to be painting constantly. So in order to post constantly, I had to paint constantly because I needed that content. I needed to then take photos constantly because I needed the images. And then that meant that I needed to create posts and create captions constantly. And all of that completely drained me of my creative energy. Because then I felt like I was waking up every day and almost feeding the machine of social media, that gaping maw that was just never full. And I always needed to be posting or creating for the sake of posting. And a few things that I've learned over the years and things that I want to share with you today that can actually make posting on social media enjoyable and not feel like it needs to stress you out. So I have probably about 4 things that I'm going to rattle off here that I really do think will help in that whole process of what is social media. So number 1, to really the first and foremost thing is to really stop thinking that you need to be online all the time and post every day. So the first and foremost thing to actually make social media enjoyable and the whole posting and the sharing is to realize you don't have to be there any day. So find an amount that feels good to you. So whether that is posting or being in your stories like 3 times a week or 4 times a week, some weeks it's more, some weeks it's less, sometimes it's the weekend, sometimes it's not, but really giving yourself that permission to not show up and post every day, because that will wear you out, that will burn you out, and you will feel like you have to constantly be creating content when at the end of the day, you really don't need to show up every day and post and be in your stories and whatever. Number 2, to stop thinking that you need a fresh piece of finished artwork to share. And this also goes into to realize that you don't need to have these professional, well-curated photos and videos to share in your content. And I feel like with social media in recent years, definitely within the last year and maybe in the few years before that, it's almost been this gift that the curated, the beautiful professional photos aren't that important anymore. Not to say that, for example, Instagram is not a visual platform, because it absolutely is. But I feel like what resonates more, like with my audience, what resonates more, I think, overall, is really that authenticity. And what I mean by that is that the well-curated professional photos, it's nice to have obviously good-looking photos and not just to post anything and everything, that you snap on your phone or whatever. But the idea that sometimes with these videos or with the photos, it's really nice and refreshing to almost feel like you're next to the artist as they're creating or they're painting or they're talking, to where it doesn't have to be this beautiful photo of them from a professional photographer in this well-polished piece. It actually feels like you're there with them. And it kind of has this authentic piece that you get to know them more, and it just feels very refreshing. So at the end of the day, I really do think that while having nice looking photos and videos to share on social media is important, but to keep in mind that I don't feel like it is I know it's not the be all end all. I do feel like the audience definitely enjoys, like you could show up, take some photos, take some video on your phone, share that, and that really connects more with people because they feel like they're there with you. They don't feel like it's this fake, well-curated place, but you're actually just showing up as you are, sharing your artwork, your studio space, and you don't always have to have these finished pieces of artwork to share. I remember a couple years ago, I would wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't have a painting, like I don't have anything planned for social media today. So I felt like I had to paint something in the morning, just real quick, like just to get something out or just to show some video of me painting in order to share on social media. And that is very stressful, to feel like we always have to have something finished, because that drains us of our creative energy and just enjoying the whole process. The third thing that I want to mention is to not forget the power of repurposing your content. I know, like, we think that everybody sees our posts, everybody sees our stories, everybody reads every caption that we post. And the reality is, not everybody sees that stuff. Not everybody sees everything that we share. So even the images, not everybody's seeing the photos that we're posting. So never feel like you constantly have to recreate the wheel over and over and over again for a social media post. You can absolutely take a photo that you shared a month ago, whatever, a year ago, a few months ago, and you can reshare that photo. You can repurpose that caption. And just this reminder that's actually very refreshing, which it may not sound the best, that everyone doesn't see our content that we're posting, but it's very refreshing that you can repurpose your content knowing that there are new people out there that haven't seen it yet. And even if even if someone has seen that picture before, or even if someone has read that caption before, sometimes your audience needs to see a painting again or needs to read a caption again, or maybe you're sharing more fun facts about yourself and it's like, oh, I already told my audience about this. But sometimes your audience needs to see things a few times or read things a few times. I'll even say this happened to me like maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I repurposed a post. It was a painting that I'd created that I knew, I painted last year. It was still available for sale. So I was like, okay, I'll re-share the same photo. And it was the same caption also that I put with it. It was a very inspirational caption. It was a caption I really enjoyed. So I repurposed that. And the funny thing was, I shared it maybe 2 months prior. And I repurposed it and I reshared that, and someone bought the painting. It was their first time ever seeing it. And the person that purchased it was actually, they've been following me for years. We're actually like Instagram friends. And it was like she'd never saw the painting before, and the caption really resonated with her. And so everything was just like this perfect connection, this perfect marriage. So to realize that instead of stressing yourself out and thinking you need to constantly be creating something new all the time, don't be afraid to repurpose content that you've already shared in the past, because more likely than not, someone is out there that hasn't seen it, that really wants to connect with it and read the caption, learn more about you and your story and your journey, all of that. The fourth thing, which is actually something I have gotten so much better at, and I feel like it's something we don't talk about a whole lot for some reason in like the art business space, but boundaries, setting boundaries. And this one point has made social media so much more enjoyable for me. And I've gotten so much better at setting these boundaries over the past year specifically. And to realize, as we set boundaries, to realize, like, if there are days that for example, if there are days I need to get in the studio and I need to put my head down and I need to get work done and I'm on a time frame or a timeline or whatever, but there's something I need to get done, then there's times I'm not posting on social media and I'm not showing up in my stories, and that is okay. Because again, there's a difference between constantly and consistency. I am consistent with my social media, but that doesn't mean that it's every day. That doesn't mean that it has to be every day. So I set boundaries, and I want you all to do this as well. If there are things that you need to get done, definitely get those things done, and don't feel like you need to be in your stories and you need to be on social media and you have to do all these posting, because, and I don't want this to sound unkind in any way, but this is something that is actually, in my opinion, very freeing and very refreshing. But people are not up waiting for me to post on social media. People are not waiting for me to share in my stories. They're not like chomping at the bit or setting alarms to make sure that they're checking to see if I'm posting anything. No, that's weird. Must be a spam caller. So realizing that not everyone is sitting there waiting for you anyway. So it's nice to know that I can show up on days that I want to show up and set those boundaries. If I have to get something done, I'm going to get that thing done, and nobody is waiting on me. No one's looking at their clock being like, I haven't heard from Jesse in a day. What's going on? Same with weekends. There are some weekends, yes, I will share things on social media, but I set those boundaries to where there are some weekends, if I want to put my phone down and not be on social media, not being in my stories, that I give myself that permission, to where I'm not constantly feeling like people are waiting on me or I'm letting anybody down for not posting on social media for a day or two. Because at the end of the day, as long as you are consistent, and again, that's not constant, so setting those boundaries for yourself on not feeling like you need to be in there every day. You need to be in your stories every day. You need to be sharing every weekend or whatnot. So giving yourself that permission. The last thing is actually something that I talk about often, and this actually helps a lot with my content creation and how I show up. Share like you consume. So what I mean by that is, I pay attention to what I like to see. So if I enjoy seeing artists like in those reels on Instagram, just like some simple video that's entertaining for 15 seconds of them painting, or photos of XYZ, on how different people show up. And that's how I show up. So how I am, like whatever I enjoy seeing from other people is generally what I find how I enjoy showing up. So I enjoy sharing reels that aren't these beautiful, curated videos from a production. It's just kind of like me holding my phone as I'm painting or having a tripod, because that's what I enjoy seeing from other people. Or, different photos to where I am sharing finished artwork, but I'm also sharing like some studio behind the scenes, like things like that. So sharing like you consume. Realizing what you enjoy seeing from other people will definitely take off some of that stress of, okay, what do I need to create? What do I need to share? What do I need to talk about? But taking a step back and really saying, okay, well, what do I enjoy seeing? What do I enjoy other artists doing? And give that a try. See if that's a good place to start on how then you'll show up, on how the images that you share or the videos you share, things like that. So really paying attention to things that you find entertaining, things that you like to consume on social media. That's a great place to start to share things that you would enjoy as well, that actually feel enjoyable sharing and creating and taking videos of and all of those things. So that is the end of today's talk, with keeping us from getting so stressed out from social media, from allowing our marketing to not be so stressful and actually start taking that stance of and allowing it to be enjoyable. Posting on social media does not need to be this constant stressful process that we go through week after week after week that eventually just burns us out, because social media in and of itself can burn you out 100% constantly. So really taking a step back, realizing it does not have to be constantly, but just as long as you are consistent and you are picking apart these pieces that you would actually find enjoyable, whether that is setting boundaries, whether that is sharing like you consume, whether that is repurposing your content so you don't feel like you need to keep recreating the wheel over and over. All of these things are things that I have learned over the years that have really made a difference with my relationship to social media and my posting and my sharing, and allowing it not to dictate my day or my week or my creative energy. But really, hopefully you could take these things and kind of mold a social media relationship to where it doesn't feel so stressful and it actually feels enjoyable to show up and to share like you like. Hi, I'm going through the comments now. So I've got this whole new setup I'm trying, because sometimes the comments get me distracted too. Hi, Jillian. Hi, Patty. Hi, Amy. Glad everybody's here. Okay, Patty says, for sure, social media gets overwhelming, too much stimulus. I really try to focus on a time limit. Absolutely. I know with being on there, because I know it's so important, and this is actually something for a talk for another day that I want to dive into, but social media is important it's important for so many reasons, but also the connection point and really connecting with other people in a genuine and authentic way. And for lack of better words, I know that those are those complete vague terms, but really connecting with people and having relationships with these Instagram friends, I feel like that is so important, and I have to put a time limit on it. But it's important enough to know that I need to get in there, and it's not just all about me posting and ghosting and all of that stuff, but it's actually to set a timer and say, okay, for 10 minutes, I'm going to go in and I'm going to, take a look at, these 5 people's stuff, what they're sharing. So that way I'm keeping up with people too. So it's actually, because social media is so great for those relationships, it's a game changer, but to make sure we're not spending all day on there, because man, those rabbit holes will get you. Like you'll be going, I don't know, the reels really get me, because I'm just like scrolling on the reels. And then anyways, Jillian, how important do you think it is to add to your stories on Instagram? Everybody is different. And what I always recommend for everybody's business, and I say the beautiful thing about being a business owner is you kind of get to make the rules. You get to show up how you want. and having that permission for yourself. And I love sharing that piece of content with you because I feel like for years I felt like there was a certain way I needed to show up like this person, do things like this, like this, like this. Like there was some regiment, unspoken rule on how you need to show up on social media. And there's not. Like you can do whatever you want, whatever feels good is the most important thing. But when it comes to Instagram stories, I feel like those are very important. And Jillian, I don't know how comfortable you feel with showing up in your stories or anything along those lines, but I really do think that Instagram stories, if you think about even when you get online, when you get on Instagram, what are some of the first places where are some of the first places you're looking or you're going? For me, it is the stories. I like to see, what's going on in people's real lives. I like to see the behind the scenes. And for me as a content creator, when I'm in my studio, it's kind of fun just to share random stories. I mean, it's fun just to share a random video, post a random song that I think in my head should go with this. So I think adding to the stories is very important. The way I view social media, and this is actually something new as well, I view social media as an entertainment platform. And this is something I didn't mention in today's talk, but what has made social media more enjoyable for me to show up as and to share is to take that stress off a couple of things I mentioned. Showing up constantly, feeling like I had to be there constantly, feeling like I needed to have curated photos and videos. And if you have those things, that's perfectly fine. But for me, I view like Instagram, for example, as an entertainment center. Like I go there to be entertained. I want to see what people are creating. I want to see in people's stories, like their lives, what's going on, just because I'm nosy. I like to see what's going on in people's lives. And so I share like that. Again, the sharing like I consume. I view it as an entertainment place. So I share things that I find entertaining, whether or not they're, not that I'm ever unprofessional, but I don't always feel like I need to be this perfectly curated person, buttoned up, with beautiful photos, beautiful videos. Like, I really just want to show up like I want to show up. If people want to unfollow me, then they can unfollow me, and that's perfectly fine. But giving yourself that permission, Jillian, to show up like you want to, where you want to. But I do feel like Instagram stories is an important place to show up. So I hope that answers your question. If you don't feel comfortable in Instagram stories, it wouldn't hurt just to give it a try once in a while. But again, it's your business. You can show up how you want. So if you don't want to be in stories, you don't have to be in stories. I've seen several successful, probably on their own terms. We all define our own success. Showing up, not showing up in their stories. So again, anyone can do anything, as long as you're doing what you want and you're doing it in a very focused way. Amy. I totally agree with the consistency rather than constant. I think sometimes it's good to have a few days of no post so people don't get used to it always being there. And it feels more exciting if it's not in their feed every time they open up the app. I completely agree. And even going back to Jillian and the stories, that there may be 3 days that I don't post in my post, but then like I may be in my stories constantly. Of course, I'm using the constantly, but like in a given point in time of those 3 days, I may not have posted anything, but I'm in my stories because I'm like creating and I'm just sharing little snippets. Patty, thanks for this. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Great reminders. Good. I'm glad this is all landing with you. Your bike helmet while painting was hilarious. Yes. Seeing people's comments after with the bike helmet, of course, in my stories, if you were in there, you kind of got the behind the scenes of Matt telling me with that large painting that I need to be wearing a helmet because I'm accident prone. I fall a lot. And he knows that. So he saw me on a ladder and he's like, you need to be wearing a helmet. Obviously, I'm in a studio with a cement floor. That could be a problem. So I wore the bike helmet in one of the photos, and even seeing people comment on that video now, like if they see the reel, they're like, what's up with the bike helmet? You just had to be there. Okay, well, I hope everybody has a great Friday. This has been fun, and we'll chat soon. Okay,